700 Israeli spies arrested in 12 days, weapons seized, confessions extracted, justice served. But what if I told you none of it was real? June 13th changed everything. Israeli strikes hit Iran's nuclear facilities with surgical precision, killing top generals and scientists. The Islamic Republic's intelligence network, built over decades, lay in ruins. 29 high-ranking officials dead. Israel's Mossad had infiltrated deeper than anyone imagined. But in the aftermath, as international cameras turned toward Tehran, something curious began happening. Arrests, confessions, weapons seizures. Iran was fighting back, not just with missiles, but with a different kind of weapon: propaganda. 700 arrests in 12 days. That's nearly 60 people per day, an impossible pace for any intelligence operation. But Iran needed big numbers, dramatic headlines. The regime was hemorrhaging credibility after Israel's devastating attack exposed their vulnerabilities. Each arrest announcement became a band-aid over a gaping wound of national humiliation. Look closely at the weapons Iran claims to have seized from Israeli agents. Iranian-made Mizakh-3 missiles, Iranian-made Shahin-1 drones, Chinese and Yugoslav mortar shells, standard Iranian military stock. Not a single Israeli-manufactured weapon in sight. It's like claiming to bust a Toyota dealership and displaying only Honda cars as evidence. On June 24th, Iranian media proudly displayed photos of 402 seized Israeli drones. There was just one problem: the photo was taken in Ukraine by an Associated Press photographer in May, showing Ukrainian military drones used against Russia. Iran's propaganda machine had literally stolen someone else's war to fake their own victory. When you need enemies, manufacture them. Iran's 5 to 8 million Afghan immigrants, mostly illegal, mostly desperate, became perfect targets. Suddenly, Afghan laborers were transformed into Mossad operatives. The same people who cleaned Tehran's streets were now accused of planting bombs and flying drones for Israel. Fear and xenophobia wrapped in the flag of national security. Rafael Grossi made a career of diplomatic neutrality. As head of the UN's nuclear watchdog, he walked tightropes between world powers. But neutrality became betrayal in Tehran's eyes. He should be tried and executed as an Israeli agent, declared Iran's hardline press. The same man who'd spent years trying to prevent nuclear war was now accused of enabling it. Iran's suspension of IAEA cooperation isn't defiance, it's desperation. Even Russia, Iran's closest ally, urged continued inspections. China stayed silent. When you're too extreme for Vladimir Putin's comfort, you've crossed a line. Iran's nuclear brinksmanship risks total isolation at precisely the moment it needs international sympathy. June 27th, mass deportation. Orders for illegal Afghan immigrants. The timing wasn't coincidental. Iran needed scapegoats for its security failures, and Afghans became convenient targets. The same community that had fled Taliban persecution now faced accusations of Israeli collaboration. Homes confiscated, families separated, all to maintain the illusion of external threats over internal incompetence. Every totalitarian regime needs its Emmanuel Goldstein, the eternal enemy, to blame for all failures. Iran's version includes Israel, America, and now Afghan immigrants. The arrests, confessions, and weapons seizures aren't law enforcement, they're theater. Scripted drama to convince Iranians that their government is strong, vigilant, effective, even when the evidence proves otherwise. France, Germany, Britain. They condemned threats against Grossi, but their words carry little weight in Tehran. The international community faces an impossible choice: engage with an increasingly paranoid regime that threatens UN officials, or isolate Iran further and risk nuclear escalation. Every diplomatic door slammed shut brings us closer to the scenario everyone fears: Iran with nuclear weapons and nothing left to lose. Behind every fabricated arrest is a real person, often poor, often desperate, often Afghan. Behind every forced confession is torture, coercion, fear. Iran's propaganda machine consumes human lives to produce fake victories. The regime's credibility crisis becomes a humanitarian catastrophe for the most vulnerable. 935 Iranians died in Israeli strikes. Countless more will suffer from their government's lies. Iran's nuclear program survived the strikes, damaged but not destroyed. The regime's credibility didn't. By suspending IAEA inspections, Iran enters a dangerous twilight zone. No oversight, no transparency, no trust. History shows us where this path leads. North Korea's isolation, Iraq's devastation, or worse, nuclear conflict in the world's most volatile region. 700 arrests, 0 Israeli weapons, 0 credible confessions. Iran's greatest enemy isn't Israeli intelligence, it's reality itself. Every fabricated victory reveals deeper weakness. Every scapegoated Afghan highlights governmental failure. Every threatened UN official exposes Iran's desperation. The regime that once inspired revolution now inspires only fear in its enemies and its own people. The story Iran tells its people is fiction. The weapons are fake, the confessions are coerced, the spies are scapegoats, but the uranium is real. The threats are real, and the danger, to Iran, to Israel, to the world, is more real than ever. Sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. Iran's regime has convinced itself that propaganda can replace reality, that theater can substitute for strength. But nuclear physics doesn't negotiate. International law doesn't bow to bluster. And the truth, no matter how deeply buried, eventually